I'm Brittany, same as all the others, just graduated from psychology. And my dissertation was on parent and mental perceptions of autistic children's experiences with a specialised surf intervention. The intervention that I'm talking about is Project Surf, and it's my organisation, so I really wanted to do it justice within the research and want to keep doing that by sharing it with people. So the rationale for it was that autism's quite a complicated set of challenges that don't necessarily logically go well together. So in some parts you've got difficulties with socialising, but then in other areas you can have difficulties with sensory processing, overrepresentation of mental health disorders, and difficulties with motor responses. So to combat all of these difficulties and give people the best outcomes, there's quite a variety of interventions. There's the obvious ones like ABA therapy, speech therapy, but I was more interested in sport therapy and some of the quite amazing impacts it can have on various groups. So one of the most interesting findings was that aerobic exercise can improve sleep efficiency and mood in autistic children. This is from the literature, sorry. And that was an EEG study, really, really interesting one that I reference a little bit later. And then more specifically, I wanted to look into surf therapy. So there's quite a large body of research showing that it's got really positive impacts for multiple groups, like people with mental health disorders, vulnerable children, people with disabilities, but it's not so well researched in autistic populations yet. So I wanted to look more into that. The purpose of the study was to see if Project Surf had met its impact goals, which were improving mental health, improving mental well-being, social communication, sensory integration, and sensory motor skills of the children participating. I did a thematic analysis using Braun and Clark's method and came out with 4 main themes in the end. So my first one was mental wellbeing impact. The overall report was that there was positive mood states on the project and that the children were coming back more tired, which links quite nicely back into that EEG study from before. One of the more interesting findings was the social impact, which I broke down into communication within the project and then the wider societal impacts. One thing that a parent mentioned to me is that one of our autistic mentors had the best relationship with their child. I think there's quite a lot to be said there on autistic people to autistic people communicating. And then there was a lovely finding then on just giving children a space where they don't feel left out to actually take part in sports. With the perceived sensory integration impact theme, the main finding was that children who did have sensory difficulties where water was concerned had improvements with things like washing their hair, any sort of day-to-day water activities after taking part in the project. And that fits quite nicely into the theory proposed by Ayres, that exposure to different sensory modalities where there might be difficulties helps make improvements. My final theme was perceived sensory motor development. This is my absolute favourite quote, and it's about a little boy who had been trying to learn to ride a bike for 3 years. And after the first session of surfing, his dad reported that he managed to do it. Whether that was just a coincidence or not, we don't know, but it's quite a happy coincidence anyway. And again, that links quite nicely into the theory of learning to do one thing in one modality translate into another modality. So with my evaluation, I would have liked to have run the project on autistic adults as well, actually got the opinions of the autistic people taking part rather than their parents. But I think it'll have some quite nice implications for informing policy around special education needs training required with, sorry, that's just my timer, special education needs training required for people delivering extracurricular activities, and obviously the future service provision with Project Surf. And that's it. If anyone's got any questions, fire away.
Brilliant, Brittany. That was fascinating. Sounds like an amazing program with lots of benefits. And I also loved that quote at the end about the being able to ride a bike. So nice.
I do love that.
Does anyone have any questions for Brittany? You said, okay, I'll ask a question. You said about you would like to be able to, in future research, to speak to the children. What do you foresee for future research based on what you found and been able to do that?
So purely like from actually hearing autistic people's voices point of view, like I think more saying that, like, that's if I was doing this study again, I would have liked to have spoken to the children as well, but with it being an undergraduate project, like just getting that approved with ethics would have taken so long. I think more for future research, I'd want to look more on the quantitative side of things. Just it seems like the natural progression from doing a qualitative study. Look more into it's sensory processing that I'm really interested in, the effect of surfing having on it. So looking more into that from a quantitative point of view.
Yeah, and maybe more objective measures, like you said. So maybe as well, yeah. Be interesting to combine some of the techniques that we've heard today. So like mic up, that might be an interesting point from people who are coaching the kids, or even from the kids' point of view themselves and their experience of surfing. I think that'd be quite cool. Maybe you should hook up with Vanelle's and get another study on the go, Brittany.